Right, like we told you earlier, Court Leader Raila Odinga once again calls for dialogue and has sent a letter to President Kenyatta on the same. Tonight we talk to Courts Zakayo Midiwo and Jubilee's Johnson Sakaja. Thank you, gentlemen, for making time for the big question. And the question is, should we Kenyans have dialogue over electoral reforms as demanded by CORD, or should the President honor CORD's requests for dialogue on electoral reforms? Keep talking to us on 22422 on Twitter. Is the hashtag the big question? Somebody here says, I think the President should not reject this proposal from CORD. Dialogue is important. I fully support that call. That is Bishop Imoite Papa, Secretary, Evangelical Alliance of Kenya. And then I have James at Athi River says, was it hypocritical for some leaders to campaign yes for the Constitution? Surely, where there is a clear process in the Constitution, why should even the President be involved to subvert it? He has taken oath to specifically defend it. Keep talking to us again on 22422 on Twitter. Use the hashtag the big question. Honorable Zakayo Midiwo, you once again calling for dialogue. This letter to President Kenyatta, what exactly are you seeking in this letter? What do you want him to do?
Well, the court has said out there that we don't imagine ever going to an election with a referee who is tainted. One of your tweets say that we voted yes for this Constitution. But remember, we voted yes for the Constitution, and Kibaki and Raila told Kenyans 20% is bad. So a Constitution is a working document. It's a work in progress. That would be wrong for a Kenyan to mislead other minds in Kenya. But what are we saying? IEBC. What is left of it? Is there anything? This body is gone. It is tainted. BVR, chicken gates. Now you see the careless talk by its chair, saying he can even bar CORD from participating in elections. You're talking like, you're talking about somebody who is basically not imagining how to live within the law.
Right, I'll let Sakaja respond to that, what you're saying specifically, but I'm asking you specifically, what are you seeking in this letter? First, has the President received the letter? Do you know if he has received it? And what exactly are you seeking in the letter?
I'll ask his surrogates to confirm whether he has received. But the letter says, given the circumstances, wouldn't it be good and responsible for leaders to sit down and talk? And what is it that we want to talk about? We want to talk about the architecture of elections. You know, in this whole scenario, it doesn't matter whether Isaka San and the other 8 commissioners run elections. The problem is that this architecture is wrong. The problem is that these people are susceptible to manipulation. We are saying, let us talk about these issues. IEBC, as it were, people talk about time. It doesn't even have a single voters register. So what are we talking? There are so many issues that need to be put on the table and be agreed upon. I mean, the deputy president says that CORD is disorganized. They will win by over 70%.
Okay.
It is his opinion, but let me just finish.
Yeah.
When he says that a person talking like that, and it's a football match of 11 aside, the field is flooded, the referee is biased.
According to one side.
Yeah, according to one side.
One team, isn't it?
According to one team.
Yeah.
So we are saying, no, let us go to a level field and get a good referee.
But the other team necessarily, does the other team feel that there's been back and forth about how IEBC is tainted and that credibility? I want you to respond to what he said. And have you seen this letter yourself? He says, you're the surrogate, you should know.
I saw an orange envelope earlier instead. I don't know if that's what it was. But if you look at this matter a bit seriously, you see, CORD first of all has one of the finest lawyers. Those who've claimed to be the fathers of this constitution. I cannot even argue on matters of law with James Orengo Anyang' Nyong'o and the rest, they know very well the process that needs to be followed to remove an institution like IEBC. That they know. So, you know, you cannot say it has caught them by surprise that now they're asking for a different process. Now, if you look at what they have been doing for the past, I think, 2 or 3 weeks, storming anniversary towers, or rather trying to storm anniversary towers to try and forcefully remove IEBC commissioners, you know, it tells you the kind of dishonesty they have, because they know very well, even if you remove Issa Hassan from his office, remove his jacket and his tie, he's still a commissioner. Even if you find him in his house sleeping, he's still a commissioner of IEBC. There's a process through which to remove them. Yeah. So it makes us ask the question, and we feel very strongly that CORD's interest is really not necessarily with the IEBC. They have a deeper interest that they're trying to,
which is what?
To pursue. You know, and I'll get to that. Yeah. I think as of now, and on the record, by the Jubilee has not defended IEBC, and I've said it even on this station. Yeah. That in fact, if anyone looks at the process of how the commissioners came in, who was there, etc., that's not our issue. Now, that kind of action of going to the streets, demonstrating, which of course is provided within the law, you have a right to protest, but you don't remove a commissioner through protest. But you know, that kind of action that we've been seeing was very reasonable during the days when we didn't have the right constitutional framework of dealing with issues. Our current law gives us very clear processes of how to even talk. You know, he's saying we talk, and I agree. There's no problem within the institutions created. Parliament itself, first of all, comes from the root word parlance, to talk. The continuous pursuit of consensus. Right. And what they're saying now is something that they really should have said many weeks ago, that, look, let us provide... Jacoy and I sit in Parliament. That's an institution within the Constitution. Just let me finish. Right. Created to seek that consensus, representing the people. Once we've exhausted that institution, you know, we can create even a special, select committee, or use a justice committee. Call all these NGOs. I think in your letter you're talking about religious organizations, the IEBC itself, some of the principles within CORD, and we listen to what the issues are. Once the issues are established, if we fail in Parliament, then you can move to the next level. But let us not behave like we don't have a new constitutional framework.
If it should start in Parliament. But you're not keen on doing this in Parliament still at all?
No, it's not that we're not keen. You know, first of all, talking about dishonesty. Did he just say the letter is talking about religious organizations, and earlier he said he only saw an orange envelope? That is dishonest.
I have not received it.
No, but let me tell you this. Wafula Buke is one of ours, brought a petition for the removal of IEBC commissioners
in Parliament.
It went through Parliament. They rejected it. So when you tell us follow the right procedure, that is where we began.
Wafula Buke's petition to Parliament, first of all, and Mheshimiwa Jacoy is a leader in Parliament. He's the
deputy
leader of minority. He knows what it is when you have a party-sponsored motion, and it's accepted it's party-sponsored. There are a lot of discussions we have as leaders. You know, we can even discuss and say, look, this is what we want to do. This is what we're bringing. In fact, let's select a committee, bring 10 people. From bring 10 people and have that process. But when a petition comes from a stranger, not from a member of Parliament.
Wafula Buke is not just another Kenyan.
But we don't know him. We don't know who he is.
If you don't know Wafula Buke, he has the right.
The other thing is, if you don't know
in the petition, if
you look at that petition, it is not raising the kind of issues they're raising now.
What CORD is
not the constitution of the IEBC. It was not something that even seemed to come from CORD. No one knows who Wafula Buke. But if you Jacoy sits down and says,
Wafula Buke works for Orange House.
I'm learning now.
And therefore works for CORD.
We're learning that.
But let me just have my point. You know, so if you tell us that there is another avenue, once they rejected the petition of Wafula Buke, we said, well, there's a core Kenya process going on. Let us put the reform of IEBC in the core Kenya bill. We signed 1.6 million signatures to IEBC. They tell us nearly 800,000 are bad. But
only 800,000 are good.
Only 800,000 are good. And there's no law telling them that when it is less, they are bad.
You can't top up.
You can't top up.
So my question now is, you're saying you'll not go, because he's talking about, and I want you to confirm this for me. Let me just ask you this question first. You're saying, and you said it on record, you said it again, it's not necessarily that you are keen on having IEBC stay as it is. First, is this your position or Jubilee's position as well? Is it shared in the Jubilee coalition?
Let me say this. First of all, I have full authority to speak on behalf of Jubilee, and most of today.
Okay.
Jubilee is ready to engage even tomorrow. Even tomorrow. Yeah? Because what Kenyans expect from us as leaders, is not to take them, whatever was happening, and I've seen some of the stories you've done. Kenyans are remembering images that they don't want to look at. We're ready even tomorrow to engage in a process through the institutions created in this constitution.
Fine. Yeah.
Through Parliament.
Yeah.
And we can agree on the
that you have said.
Let me finish the position of Jubilee. Yeah? We can create the correct framework within Parliament to do this. It has been done before.
Have you?
No, I'm saying it has been done before, but we're ready. Wafulas came as any other petition to Parliament.
But
there are 5 petitions. But the continuous pursuit for consensus is something that you cannot miss out.
Okay.
Once we've exhausted...
You've made your point about them going through the right institutions. My question is, if they are saying they will not go through Parliament, and you're saying it's not that you really want... it doesn't mean that you're supporting IEBC. Why can't you have an agreement or dialogue like what they're saying?
Remember the issue of dialogue.
Let him respond first. Yeah.
Should we disregard processes in our constitution and say, look, we have no constitution, we're a banana republic, we must go into a dialogue outside the institution?
So you're promising them you're ready for a consensus, but they just follow.
Which part of the constitution? Which part of the constitution are you referring to? It's not this word.
Article 95, 96 that talks about Parliament resolves all matters of concern to the people.
Yeah, then it's also says,
and Parliament represents the people. That's why we have equality.
And let me tell you.
Yes.
Under Article 95, 96 is where Wafula Buke brought a petition from us. You rejected it using the so-called tyranny of numbers. Article 37 of the same constitution. Now let me just talk. Article 37 of the same constitution gives us the right to picket. Because after you say, you use IEBC, you, Sakaja and Duale, you told Kenyans 2 weeks in advance that the Okoa Kenya signatures were fake. Then appeared, I looked at that thing that was being put out there by Isaka-san. A very nicely drawn pig. Another nicely drawn ndovu. Let me tell you something.
You can't blame us for the ndovu.
No, we have to blame you because personally, I happen to know what you did. Because you knew, when you told Kenyans, when you told Kenyans that they were going to be fake, then the IEBC comes out and gives signatures. How did you know
you don't trust?
Pig?
Let me respond to that.
You don't trust. You don't trust their word when they say
we're ready to engage.
They're ready to engage in Parliament. You don't trust their word?
No, I don't.
Go through that?
Because I don't. The process we have walked in the last 3 years, Hussein, is where these people, Jubilee government in Parliament is only short of supermajority by 16. And think of any law, even last week, a law to tax household goods, anything that is in your house which is important.
Let me see.
In other words, they have been using these numbers just to do wrong. So for us, we went through Parliament. It didn't work. Then we went through popular mandate, which is prescribed in the constitution. They went around it, corrupted it.
So
then now,
what you're doing in terms of, I'll give you it. So what you're doing in terms of, calling for protests, is that going to go on? Now you're calling for dialogue, and there's a letter to President Kenyatta.
No, we have said, don't misunderstand us. Don't misunderstand us. Remember, we have been calling for protests, and the protests are on. People see.
Regardless of you now calling.
No, if they say, let us sit down and talk. Because remember, Raila started calling for dialogue the day one when he came from the US. Remember when he went away?
They said
if Raila wants to talk, let Raila go for tea in State House, but there will be no dialogue.
Let me respond now.
Equal time, The first thing is this, and just to clarify the issue on Okoa. And we sat here again with you in the Tangule. And I told you that you people for 6 months, in fact the questions we were asking IEBC, we said we seem to believe, because we had a very strong feeling that these people are going to be allowed to have a referendum without proper scrutiny. And we said IEBC for 6 months is verifying signatures without having a repository of samples, and there's no way they can verify yours without coming back to you, because they don't have your sample signature. So we said we have reason to believe that those signatures could be fake, but that's neither here nor there, because you wanted a process to be done by the same IEBC who you feel is tainted, because they're the same ones who would have done the referendum to deal with them. We're not defending IEBC at all. What we're saying is this, and I repeat, you know very well the process of bringing a party-sponsored motion, a party-sponsored bill in Parliament. The motion or the bill or the petition by Wafula Buke was not a party-sponsored motion.
Now that we're here today, which part of the Constitution are you referring to? What is the relevance of a party?
Let him respond. Let me just finish.
The relevance is this: that Parliament, being the place where you need to have this continuous pursuit for consensus, is a place where when something comes to the table, you say, look, this is coming from us. As court, this is what we feel. Now, Jubilee, can you please listen to us? Can we discuss this? That consensus is what you must pursue. Don't think that consensus is mechanical, that something has come through the conveyor belt of Parliament and we will sit down. Now, what I'm saying, because there is no use crying over spilt milk, we are here today. Our country is facing a moment. We have an election in 1 year and 89 days. Kenyans want certainty, Kenyans want stability, and Kenyans want to see their leaders behaving in a mature way that is not taking them back to the past. Jubilee is ready to sit down. Let me finish. I've allowed you to say. We're allowed. We're ready and very willing to sit down within the institutions created by the law and agree. You know, it doesn't have to be in the same manner that Parliament, in the standing orders, which you know very well, you've been there for many more years than I have, has the ability to create even special committees. We can use our jailer committee. We can agree on constitution. We can agree on who comes in there. And we sit at County Hall, for example, and say everybody who has something to say about the IEBC, come to Bunge. Whether it is religious, whether it is NGOs, all those people are saying. If that then fails, then you pursue extra legal mechanisms.
You respond with this. I want to ask this final question to both of you. As you respond, okay. Then how do we get out of this? What do you propose as a way forward out of this?
The way forward is for us talking, and not us in terms of Parliament. You know, you don't trust Parliament. These Kenyans you see here don't trust Parliament.
Then why are you still in Parliament?
No, I am just telling you the perception of Parliament, because you can't pull it. But who is talking to Kenyans? It is Raila, it is Kalonzo.
So as we're talking to Marshall,
Raila is not in Parliament, Kalonzo is not in Parliament. There are constitutional ways that gives them windows to negotiate and to converse with Kenyans. Those ways is what they don't like.
Okay, what framework of negotiations you want? What exactly you want in terms of negotiations?
No, first of all, dialogue. First of all, I am happy that he seems to be admitting that now the dialogue that they rejected 2 years ago, we can have it, and that we will take. You have said you are from there because it is a departure from the meeting you had yesterday.
We can speak in Parliament.
It's a departure from your meeting at State House yesterday,
which you are not in.
Which I wasn't, but I'm privy to what you discussed, because it was a meeting of digging in and saying the IEBC must stay put.
No. That is not the truth. And Mohammed, you should not allow.
But they're saying, Sakaja is saying that Kenyans don't want to see things that take them from the past. You are tear-gassing people against the law. Yesterday they even used live ammunition on us.
Is that so?
Exactly.
Let me say this.
Press conference. So
you're saying the way forward is what?
Dialogue.
Okay. As we finish, let me say this. First of all, you know, when they keep referring to this earlier call of dialogue, you know, which is not what they really wanted, because when you're calling for dialogue and then you're saying that Uhuru, you must call us within 14 days, ama utolewa bila maji and whatnot, you know, that is not the kind of atmosphere. If you want to have sensible discussion, and I insist, through the right institution, and that's how you know, these things we discuss sometimes on the sidelines and agree on things, and things happen in Parliament. If we fail, let us try. If we fail, then we can escalate it to a system that is not in the Constitution. The Constitution has provided to us avenues to deal with these issues. Let us use those avenues. But if not, then Kenyans will be, you know, will be hard pressed to believe that this is actually not what you really want. That there's something else that you actually want. If you remember the last election,
you're not saying that.
If you remember, the last election, Kriegler said this, because Kriegler came to look at to review the last election. One of the issues that Johan Kriegler's commission, the IREC, said was a part of of the problem we had last time was constituting an electoral commission, Kivuitu, the last one, too late near the election. We failed to constitute because if we agree, you know, because all of this, whatever decision will be made with consensus, and I have belief that that is possible. But even that decision made, if we say, okay, let's remove them or whatnot, must have clear steps on how to bring them back in place. Let us think long term. We don't want a situation where we end up not having an election, where you have said you want to boycott an election,
as you said,
and we go into anarchy. Then we say, okay, now let us have an arrangement where everybody comes into government.
That is not empty.
No.
Unless you stop actions that are obviously geared towards showing us that you plan to rig the next election. Let me just tell you. You know the Caparo Commission.
Yes.
CIC asked us for money in this supplementary budget. We didn't give them. What do you see? A group of APs put under DP's office. The same thing that happened in 2007. Now there's something called a dialogue committee of policemen, APs, the same people who rigged the 2007 elections. No. And now they are being funded away from the Caparo. What do you expect us to imagine?
No.
That you have evidence of. That's you saying that is there. Something you have evidence on?
Of course.
Okay, so...
I'll be more careful
all right.
with that statement.
You've said you want dialogue. What kind of dialogue? How?
Let us talk about, first of all,
how would the dialogue be?
Let the principles, let the president, let our leader Raila and Kalonzo and Ruto, these are our leaders. Let them tell us, how do we move from a rotten electoral process to one that will be accepted by both sides?
That discussion must be had within the institutions where everybody is there.
We will not do that.
By equal rights.
We will keep meeting you on the streets.
There's no problem. You know, you can, for as much as you want, you know very well that will not remove whether you have a problem or not. But even if you want that dialogue, the simplest symbol, you know, or move of faith that you want to actually have that dialogue is by then creating the atmosphere to have that dialogue. You cannot have that atmosphere on the streets, through Firimbi, through Mandamano, through rioting. When the police are waiting for you, you charge at them. Then when they respond, like on the news, you said very well.
Johnson Sakaja, thank you.
You said the police lobbed tear gas are responding to stones thrown to them. That is not pursuit of consensus.
So you are defending the police for being in the wrong place in the first place.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming. Jakaya Mediwo and Honorable Johnson Sakaja, thank you so much for making time for the big question. At least they both agree. They can. They need to talk in Parliament. That is according to Sakaja. But Jakaya Mediwo says the dialogue should not necessarily be held in Parliament. Keep talking to us on 222 and on Twitter using the hashtag the big question. Again, our question tonight: should excuse me, I'm having a bad flu. Should Kenyans have dialogue over electoral reforms as demanded by court, or should the president honor court's request for dialogue on electoral reforms? Stay tuned.